Hey everyone, we're here at Korg for another Wednesday live stream. This time we're live with the Korg Volca sample, and this is a special Volca to me because I use it as my sketch pad. I like to make beats on it, and this stream specifically we're going to be loading up some custom samples. I have loaded a set of samples in here beforehand, and we're going to use those to make Lo-fi hip-hop. There's a genre right now, Lo-fi hip-hop beats to chill study to, that people really love, and we're going to show you how to use the Volca sample to create some of those beats. So the first thing that I want to do is play through some beats for you, and while I'm doing this, these are some that I've made beforehand. Let me know if you have any questions about Volca sample, if you're interested in hearing anything particular or seeing how something is done with this great Volca, and we'll just get into some of these beats. That first beat that I showed you is about 64 BPMs, and it is built off of a jazz piano sample that I loaded into my Volca. I'll just mute all of these parts and just press play, and you can hear the jazz piano sample that I've layered a little bit. Bring in some drum beats. Little panned vocal samples that are cool. A hi-hat. Then the kick. And the great thing about Volca sample is that you can really perform your beats by using the analog isolator over here, which is an analog filter, so that if I want to drop the lows, do some filter fun, I can do that. Another fun thing that you can do is mess with the active steps on here. So that's a beat that I made just starting out, and I'll show you a couple other ones that I made beforehand. But we will, in the later part of this stream, get into how to make these types of beats. And just for reference, if you're interested in finding out more about putting custom samples on the Volca sample, we have an app that's available for Android and iOS called Audio Pocket. But there's also some really great third-party utilities out there, and it really depends what your preference is. If you want to just do it from your phone, you can use our app, but some very kind folks have made their third-party versions of the Volca sample editor available for free. So let's play a few more of these beats that I've made, these lo-fi hip-hop beats to chill study to. This one is a different BPM. Bring in the bass. That's a fun one, and that's an interesting one, and I'll get into how I'm doing both the melodic line with the vocal sample, and also that bass is a really interesting way of doing a bass. I am using a sample and I'm turning it into a synth sound, and I'll go over how to do that by using the loop function in a bit. I'll show you some more of these beats that I've made. I already have a question in the chat. Somebody asked, does the analog filter work with headphones out, or is it for the built-in speaker only? So the analog filter over here, called the analog isolator, you have a knob for bass and for treble, which is an analog filter that's on the end of the signal path coming out, so it can affect everything in your signal. That is for both the internal speaker and the output over here. So you're able to, if you're playing, you can record the output with the filter settings that you have applied. So it's a really great performance tool. Play another one of these beats that I've created. This one's great. I love this guitar sample. I'll talk more about it when we use it to create a beat live on stream in a little bit. And last but not least, I have a song mode song that I have, and that is on song 1. And what I'm going to do is go into active step and deactivate these. And then I'm going to select step 1, go to pattern 5, and step 2, go to pattern 6. Now if I play, so those are a couple of the Lofi Hip-Hop Beats that I created with the samples that I have preloaded in here. So let me start a new pattern and show you where I'm changing aspects of the sample, what samples I have in here, and we'll get into creating some of these beats live here on the stream. So this is the first pattern that I played. I'm actually just going to erase this by going function and clear all. So now if I press play, I have nothing going on. I'm going to turn my swing all the way down, and my tempo is going to be 56, which is a good tempo for one of these lo-fi hip-hop beats. So, and I have a custom sample set in here, so I'll show you some of the samples. That one's a Bill Evans sample. Bill Evans, great jazz pianist. Some really nice, just chill, cool jazz riffs. This is a sample of João Gilberto playing some guitar, which is really nice. And that's a sample from Chet Baker's song. And the answer to one of the questions in the chat is Audio Pocket available for Android? And yes, it is. And there are also third-party applications that let you load samples onto your Volca sample on everything. So Mac, PC, iOS, Android. There's all sorts of ways to load stuff onto the Volca sample. And that's what I did here. I actually used a third-party app in this case just to try it out. It's called Vosyr, Vosyr. I encourage you all to check it out. It's really useful. But there are tons of ways to load samples onto the Volca sample. So let's pick one of these samples and just kind of go with it. All right, so we have that sample, and let's just go step mode and put that on the first step, all right? And let's move our tempo up. Now we have that looping really fluidly. That's really nice. And it's 4 beats. 2, 3, 4. So we can already kind of envision how our beat is going to take shape. So now let's go and that's already a kick. Let's bring the high cut. Yeah, that's nice. So the big thing with lo-fi hip-hop is to kind of cut out a lot of the high end, because a lot of these samples, they're missing some high end because they came from old records that are like warped or scratched, and you're going to have kind of a lo-fi sound. So if I turn the analog isolator to zeroed out, you hear a lot of that vinyl hiss. But if I bring the treble down, it kind of cuts out some of that vinyl hiss. So now that we have a kick, let's dial in some of the other sounds. I don't really like that hi-hat. I like that hi-hat. We have the pitch here. Like that. All right, so now we're going to go into step mode and put in a hi-hat on each of these steps. And if I press play, already sounding good. Now let's get out of step mode, and now that's a kind of a cool snap clap, but I like that one better. So let's play, and instead of step mode recording, let's do live recording. Now it's time to put in our kicks. And you'll notice that I recorded swung because I'm kind of feeling out this rhythm, but it's going to be quantized to straight eighths, straight 16ths. So if I turn that swing knob up right there, and then if I play, now that's chill. That's a vibe. That's some lo-fi hip-hop beats to chill study to. Very nice. And I can change up the sample a little bit, so. I like just that beginning part, right? So I'm going to turn the length setting down. Right? That's nice. And then what I'm going to do is, let's try and see if we can bring it up the octave. maybe that's not quite working for this beat, but we'll be able to use that for something else. So now I want to add in a bass, and this is one of my favorite parts, and this is actually one of the coolest things that you can do on Volca Sample, which is use a sample to synthesize a bass. So I'm going to actually use this, and I'm going to turn the speed back to 0 and turn the decay all the way up and select a kick sound. And the reason will become clear in a moment. And I'm going to hold function and turn on looping. I'm going to bring my decay down. I mean, that sounds kind of cool, but it's not quite a bass, right? So we want to turn our length down. So now we have it looping at such a high frequency that it actually sounds like a note. And then we can change the start point. Now that almost sounds like an 808. And we can, of course, change the length and change the pitch. So right there, our speed and our length are going to determine the pitch. So I like that already. So now let's do the same thing. Select the same kick and turn on looping. I'm going to use the high cutoff knob. Right now we have our bass notes, right? So let's do and we can bring the level down. So that's how you create a bass, by just looping a sample, a tiny little piece of a sample, at such a high frequency that it actually sounds like a note. So we've actually created a note out of that. And now we like that pattern, so what we want to do is go in and function write, and we're going to write that to, let's see, I think this is the unused slot. Let's go to number 7, and if I go to memory and select another pattern, and then go back to number 7, and I can even take out the bass with the analog isolator there. So somebody in the comments says, yes, it turns a sampler into a synth. That's right. And you use kind of the length tool and the speed to dial in the pitch. And it's not quite like using an actual synth, of course, but it can get really close to almost granular synthesis territory, which is really, really cool. Now, another thing that I want to show you guys is how you can take those samples, and if let's go to a empty pattern, press function and the last step button to clear all, and go to this first step and select one of these. All right, and then turn the length down. And now turn up the attack and decay on the amp. And then let's turn on loop. Now you quite literally have granular synthesis. So I'm changing the start point. And if I add in some reverb, it sounds really cool. Ooh, I like that. I could use that to make a beat. Oh, nice. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to step mode, and I'm going to put that in here, right? Nice. Okay. Now let's find a cool snare sound. Nice. All right, now step mode. Almost sounds kind of dubby, right? Cool. Yeah, that sounds really cool. All right, now let's go and find a kick that we like. Bring the high cut down. Bring the speed on that kick down. Oh yeah, that's slamming. Nice. Very nice. Now let's find another sample to go with that. Now let's turn down the length of that one. Turn up the length a little bit. And now let's use another sample of the same sample. And let's change the start point. And turn down the length. And go into step mode and put that on step number 9. So let's play and just see what we get, right? And now I feel like this beat needs some hi-hats. So let's go and add in some hi-hats to this. So let's use an unused sample slot and it's kind of drop the pitch on the hi-hat. That's a great shortcut to make your hi-hat sound really lo-fi. All right, and now if I press record, so what I just did there was I live recorded by arming, without pressing play, I armed the Volca to expect me to play something, and as soon as I played the first note, it immediately started recording. So I was able to jump right in rhythm, and arm that to record. So I wouldn't have to listen to it loop a couple times to get the tempo. So if I want to go into step jump and change those that I just did, right? Added that in. Take out the bass. This is vibes. Now mute the other stuff. Remember, it all started from this. And that's how you kind of build a beat up from scratch on the Volca sample. At this point, we'd like to welcome everybody who's tuning into the stream. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome to Korg's Wednesday afternoon stream. This week, we are here with the Korg Volca sample, creating some Lofi Hip-Hop Beats using some custom samples that we've loaded into the Volca sample. And if you're just joining us, feel free to let us know in the comments if you have any questions or requests, or you want to see something in particular on the Volca sample. And in the meantime, we'll just keep making cool beats on here. So I really like that beat that I just made, so I'm going to get out of step mode, and I'm going to hold function and press the memory button to write that. And I think that I used 5, 6, 7, 8. If I save it to pattern 8, and then go back to our previous pattern, and then select pattern 8 again. Now we can unmute parts and perform it by unmuting parts, which is a lot of fun. You ready for this? We're going to bring in the beat. And total vibes. So if you're wondering how we get these custom sounds on here, there's an app that we have called Audio Pocket, and Audio Pocket is available for free on the App Store from Korg. But since the Volca sample came out, there's a lot of really cool user utilities, third-party utilities that our users have developed that allow you to go even further into customizing the sounds on your Volca sample. And one of those that I like is called Vosyr. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's Vosyr, and that actually allows you to modify some of the sequences in the Volca sample from your computer if you'd like. But I just like it because it automatically converts the samples into a WAV file that I can then load onto here. So I can have lots of cool samples like this one right here. This is just really, really sad, kind of spicy guitar. And if I go function and then reverb, take the reverb off, bring up the level a little bit. That's just an awesome sample. I love that sample. So what I'm going to do is actually, let's try making some lo-fi house with this sample. Let's bring up the tempo. Yeah, maybe we'll stick with the lo-fi beats to chill study too, for now. Maybe we'll do some lo-fi house on a future stream. So what I want to do with this, I want to chop it up so that it kind of fits, because in the actual recording, the player kind of slows down at the end. So let's change the length. Let's bring the length down. Up maybe. Perfect. So now we want to go into step mode. And let's bring the pitch of that down. And let's bring the great thing about making lo-fi hip-hop on Volca sample is you start with these samples and you kind of, like Bob Ross, you kind of make happy accidents along the way that make their way into your final beat, because lo-fi hip-hop is really forgiving. You can make a lot of really cool sounds with these kind of lo-fi samples that are interesting because they're lo-fi. They lack a lot of the kind of high-end frequency content, and they're not as pristine as maybe like a hi-fi sample. So you're kind of, you have to use that in your creative direction, which I really like. So now that I have that first part of the sequence, let's use the second sample. Let's load that sample up again. I think it's 49. Drop the pitch to the same and change the start point. And go to step mode and just put that in step 9 and see what it sounds like. Cool. So let's drop the length. Nice. Cool. So now we just need to fill out those last 4 eighth notes. And let's go to sample number 49. Getting a lot of practice doing the same thing here, so. Okay, and step mode. And now let's hear it. That's nice. That sounds really nice. So we're actually kind of in a good place with the loop. So what we want to do is take that same sample and put it up an octave, so we have an accent on top. So let's select. Bring that down to about here, and I think that's just the first part of the phrase. Nice. So what we can do here is do a sort of pseudo delay sound. So I want to go function, turn on looping, and then the decay here on the amp functions as the number of repeats. Right? So if I turn that up, so we're kind of like almost using this impressionistically to paint vibes and colors with this sample. Now I'm going to copy this sample one more time into the 5th part and go up to here. And what I want to do now is change the start point. Cool. So if I press play, and I'm recording now, And I can actually change the start point a little further back. Or a little further forward. Now that I've kind of created this melodic loop with the sample that I've chosen, now I can start on my drums. So we wanted to spend all that time getting our sample perfect, so we can start on our drums and they'll sound really good. So I usually use the first slot of my drums as the kick. Bring the high cut down on that immediately because we're super lo-fi. And then go with a hi-hat. Bring the pitch down on that. And use step mode. Sometimes we record live, sometimes we use step mode to put that in every single other step. Let's use a shaker here. So I live recorded some shakers in there, and we have the swing turned up, so we're swinging. Now we want to bring in our snare. Oh yeah, that's a really hip-hop snare. All right. Now record our kick. Take the bass out with the analog filter. Let's bring it back in. I love that beat. That beat is just, that's perfect. I would chill and study to that beat, that lo-fi hip-hop beat. So now that I love our beat, let's go to memory, write that into slot number 9. All right. If you're just joining us, we're live with the Korg Volca sample. Thank you so much for tuning in on Korg Facebook on this fine Wednesday afternoon. Beautiful outside, and we're quarantined inside with the Volca sample, creating some awesome beats. And in this case, we're doing some lo-fi hip-hop beats, to chill study to. And we've loaded some samples on here, some custom samples, and we're turning them into lo-fi hip-hop beats. And one of the things that I love to use on the Volca sample is this analog isolator, this analog filter that allows me to take out the treble, take out the bass, because one of the key elements of these lo-fi hip-hop beats is that they're low-passed. There's not a lot of high-end. They filter that out. Bring in the bass. So, okay, here's one thing that I want to show you, which is that we can use our trick to create a kind of 808 style kick by looping the kick. So let's go back to our kick and let's turn loop on. And let's turn the length. So the reason we were looping there is because the decay was all the way up. But now we have this looping kind of almost synthy, like granular synth on our kick. So now we need to find the right pitch. So now we're kind of in 808 style kick territory. So if I press play, change the start point. It's all about finding the sweet spot. So now that I have kind of taken you through all the samples, let's create another beat on here. So let's go to memory and pull up slot number 10 and just erase what's going on in there. And let's choose a piano sample. One's nice and relaxed and quiet. And we'll use a feature on the Volca sample that we haven't used so far in the stream, and that is reversing a sample. So let's nice. All right. So what we want to do is function and reverse and select that one. And let's go into step mode and put it on the first step and the ninth step. Change the start point. Starting to sound like something there. And now let's check out the same sample on the second sound here. Let's reverse that too. All right, now let's press play. Now we can change the start point and the length. Change the start point to change the ending. Now we want to add in the original sample on the third sample slot. And let's bump it up the octave to just see. Let's try turning on loop and see what that does. Cool, now we're getting somewhere. So let's put that on each of the beats. Nice. Now let's go in and add a bass. And remember how we did that before? Let's select a kick drum, and let's loop it. And let's turn the length down. Now let's add in a clap. That's a nice one. Let's drop the octave on that. And let's add in a hi-hat. Ooh, let's add in some reverb. Nice. Let's see what we can find here. Now let's add in another kick to strengthen that kick, but it's not going to have the trail off with the bass note. Now those kicks are really blending together because I high cut some of the high end out of that secondary kick that I added. Nice. Cut out the bass. Let's see what happens when we raise the tempo, make that faster. Nice. And one of the things that we can do when we're performing with Volca Sample is just straight up use the play button. So if I play, starting the sequence, and you can really hear it in some of the other, if I write that to slot number 10, some of the other sequences that I've made. And you might be wondering how I did that melodic sequence. So this is cool. This sequence I created by taking the same sample and changing the pitch 4 different times. So I have 4 different pitches, and that's how I did the melody. So let's just kind of take you through recreating that. So let's I have the same sample 4 times, this vocal sample, right? If I play the pattern, I'm going to unmute everything. Right? Right? So now we want to bring this up an octave. Right? Right, so now we want to bring... Right, now we have those 2 notes. Now if I press play, we have that melody again. And you can see that there's some reverb on just these, right? So if I bring the reverb mix up, sounds really nice. Take out the bass. Filter out some of the highs. And we're lo-fi. I'm even going to save that because I like it so much. And it's looking like it's about time for us to wrap up the stream. If you joined us today, thank you so much. All of you who asked questions in the comments and said hi. We'll be back next Wednesday, this same time in the afternoon, right here on the Korg Facebook page. Be sure to tune in then. We have different products every week, different styles, and there's something for everybody. So tune in next week on Wednesday afternoon. This has been Korg live on Facebook, live streaming, creating Lofi Hip-Hop Beats with the Volca sample. And we will see you next time. I'll play you out. Thanks for watching.